What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the channel. My name is Michael, and I hope you are having a fabulous day. Continuing in the series of World War One. This time we are in 1917. A lot is going on. A lot is changing in the world, as we can see, like it is today in 2020. Well, anyways, before we get there, be sure to subscribe, drop a like, let me know what else you guys would like to react to. Keep on bombarding me with the comments, the feedback, all the love. I do appreciate it, and I want to continue to give back to you guys. That being said, let's go. 1917. Good movie, by the way. Just saying.
In 1916, World War I became a war of attrition. Both sides began to focus less on winning victory on the battlefield than grinding down the enemy and inflicting such enormous losses they would be forced to surrender. In 1917, the strategy will push Europe's major powers to the brink of collapse.
See right there, the opening liner, it's not even necessarily about war anymore. We're just seeing what the narrator is talking about is creating pure chaos to see whoever taps out first, which is just unbelievable because human life was expelled in regards to that.
Germany knows it will lose a long war of attrition against the Allies, who have greater resources. So its leaders gamble. They resume unrestricted submarine warfare, believing their U-boats can cut off Britain's food imports by sea and starve the country into surrender within 6 months. But the new shoot-on-sight tactics mean neutral American ships will inevitably be caught in the crossfire, risking America joining the war on the Allied side. Just 2 days into the campaign, the SS Housatonic, an American steamer carrying wheat from Galveston, Texas to England, is sunk by a U-boat. The British then pass to the US government a telegram they've intercepted from German Foreign Secretary Arthur Zimmermann to the German ambassador in Mexico. Germany is encouraging Mexico to attack America if America and Germany end up at war. The so-called Zimmermann telegram puts yet more pressure on US President Wilson to declare war on Germany. In Russia, enormous casualties and bread shortages lead to riots and revolution. The Tsar abdicates. A provisional government takes charge, pledging to continue the war. But at the front, Russian troops begin to desert en masse. After a string of German provocations, the US finally declares war on Germany. It brings immense resources to the Allied cause, but they will take many months to mobilize. And the German gamble of unrestricted submarine warfare may still pay off. April is the U-boats' most successful month of the war. They sink 886,000 tons of Allied shipping, an average of 17 ships a day, all packed with urgently needed food and supplies. Britain will face starvation if the U-boats are not defeated soon. On the Western Front, the British launched the Battle of Arras, a diversion to support a major upcoming French offensive. After heavy fighting, Canadian troops seize the high ground of Vimy Ridge. It's a limited Allied victory, but costs 150,000 Allied casualties to 130,000 German. Above the trenches, the First Air War has reached new levels of sophistication and deadliness.
I mean, just we're at the apex right now, and just so much chaos, everything going on. There's just so much, like I said, this war, rewatching the videos and like relearning about it, learning more about the wars, just like you're really seeing the foundation being set of what's to come. in the next 30 years. And it's just crazy to see that. I mean, it's just intensity combined.
Reconnaissance aircraft are crucial for spotting enemy positions and directing artillery fire onto them. Scout aircraft or fighters try to shoot them down before they can execute their mission. New models of aircraft are developed every few months, but that spring, the superiority of German aircraft leads to heavy Allied losses in what becomes known as Bloody April. Three days after the fall of Vimy Ridge, French General Robert Nivelle launches his main offensive. Expectations are high, but after initial success, the advance bogs down and casualties quickly mount on both sides. The apparently senseless losses cause morale in the French army to collapse. Whole units mutiny, refusing to attack. General Nivelle is sacked as French commander-in-chief and replaced by General Pétain, hero of Verdun, who promises no more suicidal attacks. That summer, at Messines Ridge, the British tunnel under the German lines and detonate 19 enormous mines under the enemy position. It's the largest man-made explosion in history to date, and paves the way to a brilliant but highly local British victory.
Wow.
In Greece, King Constantine, who has favoured neutrality, is forced to abdicate, and Greece joins the Allies. Russia's provisional government orders a new attack, but the July offensive is a disaster. The morale and discipline of the Russian army has collapsed. It can no longer be relied on to fight, and the Central Powers' counterattack is almost unopposed. At sea, the Allies begin to group their merchant ships into convoys, which sail under naval escort. The new system...
It's crazy to think about that. Even in times of war, you know, we have like a neutral nation in the beginning with America. Now we can say that obviously there was kind of egging on and a lot of things going in the background in regards to that. But the minute you add like a military presence to it, the dynamics are changing.
Leads to a steady fall in losses. The tide is turning in the U-boat war.
And it was almost like we were waiting for this. You know, this element was, you know, to come. You know, the egging on and everything. And maybe that British telegram, maybe there was a, you know, certain incentive to have that written and be intercepted, you know, whatever it may be. I mean, but regardless, as they are in the war now, and it's just, oh my gosh, so much going on.
As discontent with the war grows in Germany, the German parliament, the Reichstag, passes a peace resolution, calling for a peace of understanding and reconciliation. It's ignored by the German High Command, which now effectively rules the country as a military dictatorship. In Belgium, the British launched their major offensive of 1917, the Third Battle of Ypres. It will be remembered as Passchendaele. Heavy shelling, rain and broken irrigation channels turned the battlefield into a sea of mud. In these impossible conditions, all hopes of a breakthrough soon fade. The attack is called off after 3 months, by which point the British have suffered 240,000 casualties, the Germans 200,000.
Wow.
On the Italian front, at the 11th Battle of the Isonzo, Italian and Austro-Hungarian forces batter each other into exhaustion. There are 150,000 Italian casualties, 100,000 Austro-Hungarian.
I mean, is there basically, I know this is kind of giving us a brief overview in a sense of World War One, and there's just so much to cover within World War One, but it's like literally every battle or major offensive or whatever it may be, like the bare minimum is 6 figures in casualties, and it's just crazy to see just the sheer carnage of what's going on. And it's just a massive stalemate. Nobody's really gaining territory to say, but so much loss of life is occurring, and that's just that stalemate aspect of war is just.
That year, 1917, the list of Allied nations grows. Brazil, Liberia, China, and Siam all declare war on Germany as a result of German U-boat attacks, or to curry favor with the Allies. China will contribute many thousands of laborers working for the Allies in Europe, the Middle East, and Asia. That year in the Middle East, British forces avenge their 1916 humiliation at Kut by defeating the Ottoman Turks and marching on to occupy Baghdad. British forces in Egypt advance across the Sinai Desert, but are thrown back by Ottoman forces at the First and Second Battles of Gaza. In July, Arab rebels capture the strategic Ottoman port of Aqaba. They are accompanied by a British military advisor, Captain T.E. Lawrence, better known as Lawrence of Arabia. That autumn, British Foreign Secretary Arthur Balfour issues the Balfour Declaration, expressing support for the creation of a national home for the Jews in Palestine. The aim is to rally Jewish support for the Allies, but the declaration contradicts existing pledges to Arab leaders. In October, the British finally win at Gaza, clearing the way for an advance into Palestine. 6 weeks later, General Allenby leads British troops into Jerusalem, ending 400 years of Ottoman rule. With Russian forces in disarray, Germany is able to move troops from the east to the Italian front. At the Battle of Caporetto, they helped to smash through the Italian army, advancing 70 miles and taking 250,000 prisoners. British and French divisions, desperately needed on the Western Front, have to be redeployed to shore up the line. In Russia, a second revolution brings Lenin's Bolshevik party to power. He is determined to end Russia's involvement in the war.
So much chaos going on.
In France, Georges Clemenceau becomes prime minister. Nicknamed the Tiger, he promises total war and total victory. But for the Allies in late 1917, final victory looks uncertain. Russia has stopped fighting. French armies are recovering from mutiny. The Italian front has almost collapsed. And American reinforcements still seem a long way off.
They're coming though.
For the time being, the British are the only effective Allied force in the field. So the British attack at Cambrai with the first major tank assault in history. On the first day, nearly 400 tanks spearhead an advance of several miles through German defenses. But then the tanks break down or are knocked out. The Germans rush in reinforcements, and the gains are lost.
such a massive stalemate throughout the war.
Finland declares independence from Russia. Romania, isolated by the Russian collapse, signs an armistice with the Central Powers. 6 days later, Russia also signs an armistice. The Allied Eastern Front is no more. 1917 has seen one major Allied power, Russia, knocked out of the war. But the arrival of a fresh new ally, America. Germany knows only military victory can now save it from being overwhelmed by Allied resources, and begins planning one last massive onslaught for the spring of 1918. Epic is
Definitely a lot going on. We're seeing just kind of the transformation of just, you know, the different countries. We're seeing the splitting of different countries from other countries. We're seeing the creation of, you know, the Israeli territory in Palestine. That's set in the way. We're seeing the irritation with the Arabs over there. I mean, there's just so much going on in this, like in this period of the war, that's truly setting the foundation. Like we are at that apex, and America coming over will basically kind of turn the tables, and surviving, or this being over 100 years later, we do know what ends up happening during the war. But still, I mean, it's crazy once again to relearn and to learn new things. Like there's just so much. I feel like you could almost spend a large portion of your time, if you're a historian, just purely studying this war. Like there's just so much information because it was such a massive, you know, conflict. And I love learning about it, and you guys have just been eating these videos up. So if you have any recommendations, please leave them in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe, stay tuned. Guess what? There's a lot of videos coming your guys' way. And as always, stay healthy, stay happy, and have a blessed day. Peace.